Good morning. Okay, what's with the getup? The hat? And it's this simple. What I've discovered is as soon as you enter the healthcare system, your status changes dramatically to patient. Your professional status disappears, your knowledge disappears, your recognition as what you know who you are disappears. And it's kind of interesting. I did some work in the history of nursing and medicine, way back. And it's not unlike the military, it's not unlike religious organizations. When you join, you have to ditch whatever you wore and wear the new uniform. In our case, it's the patient gown. So I'm trying to resist the descent into anonymity within the system by making sure I'm not wearing the gown. As well, I just got married Easter weekend, and my sweetheart wants me to ditch the track pants, and so. Last night she went through my closet, so if anybody wants some old shirts. Okay, here's what I want to do. I want to talk about something that I think we all should do more thinking about, which is how to maximize the potential of our remaining lives. And I have to say, because I have a looming expiry date, suddenly that's really urgent. And it wasn't urgent before. I just thought, hey, I'm going to live 76.3 or whatever the Saskatchewan average is. Guess what? That doesn't always happen. And even if it does happen, you better be bloody sure you're doing the things you want to do in your life. And I'm here to remind you of that. I was inspired at the Health Quality Summit a couple of weeks ago hearing Bonnie Brossart, the CEO, talk about the compelling vision that's kind of driving, from her perspective, that whole lean process and Health Quality Council's support for it. And for me, what changed me from the normal adversarial labor relations guy in health policy was the patient first review. So I need to congratulate the people responsible for initiating the 2009 Patient First Review, because it's a fantastic foundation. It's a compelling vision for all the work we can be doing now. And what I learned, of course, is patient first review, patient-centered care needs to be the foundation, that healthcare needs to be a cohesive unit, and that frontline providers have to be empowered to deliver family and patient-centered care. And I know enough about the nursing community and how the system works to know that, patients can complain about what they're not getting, but frankly, health providers need some support from their administration and from the ministry and from patients as partners to help you help us. Okay, so I want somebody here to take responsibility for designing a new gown, because the current gown is designed to strip one of everything. And I thought, the kimono, we're worried about the Japanese language attached to lean, kaizen, and sensei and stuff, but those kimonos are beautiful. They're silk, they're flowery, they button up front, and so I'm thinking we can do a Saskatchewan-made saskimono, ditch the patient gown, integrate a gown that we need with a gown that's all silky and red and beautiful, and we've got a made in Saskatchewan product. I need to dedicate this to Harold and Edna Morell, 95 and 97, who are at a long-term care facility, have been for 2 years, who rescued me in grade 12 from a troubled home, took me into their home so I could finish high school. Oh, chokes me up. And that resulted in, instead of me becoming a terribly troubled young man, it resulted in me going to university, getting active in the union, and ending up in a career with labor relations. So I went to visit them. I was visitor number 322. They have had 322 visitors. That's what a lifetime of giving and supporting other people produces. So this is to Harold and Edna. Okay, I have one warning, and that is when I first started my career in labor relations, you know, politics, advertising, all that, I was in Weyburn in a bar trying to recruit a young man to be active on the local executive, and his girlfriend was sitting there watching and listening, and at one point she said, "Lawrence, you're a nice guy, but you're a real bullshitter." And all of us who've been involved in politics understand that and communications, but I have to say I can't do it anymore. So I'm warning you in advance, I can't do the bullshit anymore. I'm going to say some things today that, you know, may be troublesome, but it's in our best interest to plunge in, and you can give up the bullshit too. We can all give it up. Let's just go for the truth. So, starting with, I met this incredible woman online with the username, more bullshit, Lucky and Talented, hey? I was joking, but she thought it was funny, so. And here we are, hiking around. I had this wonderful career with the Saskatchewan Union of Nurses. All I was missing, oh, I'm dry. Can somebody bring my water? Otherwise I'll, Keith, thank you. So what I was missing in my life was romance. Had a great career. Met this psychotherapist from Windsor. And we had this wonderful trip to Europe where she checked me out, thought I would pass the test. And on the way home, on an 11-hour flight, a 9-hour flight, I got up to urinate 11 times. And the guy beside me got up twice. And I thought, something funny here. So I zipped, as soon as I got home from Europe, I zipped to the clinic, got my digital rectal exam, which by the way is pretty much useless. Then I got a PSA, and then I got a prognosis that I had advanced prostate cancer. It was too late to treat it. All we could really do is slow the process down. And this is my skeleton as of today. They're supposed to be clear, they're not supposed to be black. And essentially my prognosis is following through. When I was originally diagnosed, I had 3 to 5 years of life. We're kind of in the 1-year zone. I'm going to end up with a fracture and or other spinal condition. So right now I'm focused on doing as much as I can while I'm still mobile and can still speak at conferences and that kind of thing. So what the skeleton means to me is there are thousands of us in Saskatchewan who have missed diagnostic tests, who have missed basic screening tests, and I know there's an argument about evidence, but frankly, we need to do a lot more to protect the patients and families from personal tragedies and the terrible human cost of preventable illness. Saskatchewan has the worst record for about 4 preventable illnesses. So those of us interested in primary health care and public health need to dig deeper. Okay, one of the things I discovered about getting care in the system is that mental health issues are not high enough on our priority list as patients and not high enough on our priority list as providers. In summary, I just got married Easter weekend. My lovely, bright, wonderful, tender-hearted, strong sweetheart and I barely made it to the wedding because we were in such terrible conflict over my new steroid use, because I'm pumped all the time on steroids, Lance Armstrong. I go from Luther to Lawrence. And it was draining on her, and no one warned us when I started on this big dose of steroids that it was going to have implications for our relationship. So we headed straight into the marriage, straight into preparation for the marriage, dealing with all of my treatment, and ended up in terrible conflict. If it wasn't for the social worker at the Alan Blair, I'd be crying in some basement, leaping off a bridge somewhere. I mean, imagine if my marriage had fallen apart at exactly the time when we were just planning on making the best of our remaining time together. So I want to put mental health support way higher on our patient-centered care experience. In other words, don't give me a medication without warning me that there will be side effects. Get me a referral to somebody who can talk to me about how to manage those side effects. That was a huge oversight. And this poem, The Storm, is what my sweetheart wrote after that. And I'll send you copies of it because it'll take me too long to read. But basically what she's saying is we were like gone. So your patients need support around the real important things around their care, and it starts with their mental health needs, which can be small or large. Okay. This is the LeMoal farmhouse, isolated in the middle of nowhere in the bush in northern Saskatchewan. I like to say I was raised by wolves. That's my family, my dad, who, the LeMoal family had this terrible curse. It was a thriving little farm surrounded by 3 uncles, a grandfather. It was a wonderful place. The Little Red River, White Star, Saskatchewan. What could be more romantic? Well, it wasn't very romantic. Grandpa died, drowned in the river, fell through a beaver dam, and then all hell broke loose. Then the eldest son was crushed under a Caterpillar tractor that slipped when the jack slipped. Then my sister, who's in the back right, died of a stroke when she was 24. Then my father ended up shot down when he was on his first mission and spent the rest of the war in a prison camp, and then when he got back as a double amputee. And the little guy in the left front is my younger brother. He's both got a pacemaker and prostate cancer, and there's me with hypertension and prostate cancer. This family wrestled with all this alone, because that's what we do in Saskatchewan. We're tough, right? We don't tell tragic stories. We suck it up as a family. And if we run into terrible things, either because of our failure to get screening or our failure to be on the ball and take care of our health, we just suck it up because we're tough Saskatchewan people. There's the river, Little Red River, where Grandpa drowned. And my family had to keep dealing with the fact that that was the river where he drowned all this time. There's the water well, my high school and public school, 1 room, and the church where I learned to finger paint. And I had a wonderful teacher who said, "Lawrence, you're bright but mischievous," because I'd put a garter snake in her desk. But I think if we're going to do the patient-centered care stuff, and we're going to respond to what you need and what patients need to make that work, we need to do a bit of mischief. I want to show you one more vision. You'll notice this is a stone-walled house at Indian Head, Saskatchewan. You can drive by and see it. It's a couple hundred meters from the railroad track. And you'll notice that everything on the south wall is sealed. What the hell is a stone house with the only south-facing windows, stoned, walled over? Why? And the answer is this family, like ours, lived in isolation because of immigration policy. The government made people spread out. They couldn't have villages. They couldn't live in adjacent houses. And what happened was they had 4 children. The youngest daughter's playing on the railroad track, and we know, bang, she gets hit by a train. That family has to live there. The mother has to look at the site where her daughter was killed by the train every single day. It's breaking her heart. Her husband decides to simply, they can't move, to cover the south-facing wall. So that family spends the rest of their life in that building with no sunshine, no heat, because they're keeping their tragic story to themselves and they're sucking it up. So for me, this image says we have to draw out patient voices. We have to ask patients, how are they feeling? What happened to you today? What's going in your life? Do you need mental health support? Should I make an appointment with a social worker? Because that's a hugely missing part of our care. That Patients' Voices, the organization I started, is designed to give people voice who need it. And the Patients' Voices organization that I managed to set up very quickly, because I'm steroids, bought the domain name, set up, stayed up, did the policy, did the communications policy, hired somebody to help me, is the brochures are out at the registration desk. It's designed to engage patients in a way that isn't happening now. It's wonderful to be a patient advisor, but I want a promotion. Because being a patient advisor is a bit like telling Air Canada about your experience flying with them. They'll allow you to complete a survey, but then they have the right to just ignore whatever you say. I love being a patient advisor at the provincial level. The rapid process improvement workshops that I was in were fantastic. I learned a lot. And there are hundreds of patient advisors, really competent, really effective people who are honestly changing the system because Saskatchewan's so good at engaging them. The Cancer Agency role, I love that one too, the Patient and Family Advisory Committee. We're doing great work trying to expand the patient-centered care model there. What's missing, though, is at the care level every day, we're not asking patients, how did that go? You know, the NC Picker surveys, kind of like Pablum, and we're always trying to collect better patient experience data. But what patients really want is to be asked, what happened today? What didn't you get? How can we get it for you? So it's the third level of involvement of patients that we need to engage. And finally, Patients' Voices, the new organization I've set up, is designed to partner with health regions, government, other patient advocacy organizations, because what we're going to do is provide patients with resources, information about patient-centered care. We're going to allow them to record their voices literally in video and share those with people. We'll create lists of speakers for you to invite to conferences. And I'm trying to set it up as a new kind of community development model where we have volunteers who are donating their expertise around communication strategy, web pages, developing relationships with other organizations. So please pick up a brochure on your way out, along with one of my business cards. Please think about donating, not money, but your skill and expertise to creating a permanent provincial and national organization that patients will be able to rely on, that you will be able to rely on as providers and leaders in the system to make sure that we're getting real input from patients that's really valuable. And 5 minutes remaining? Awesome. Okay, I'm going to quit there at 5 minutes remaining, except to say, this is really weird to be facing an imminent expiry date, thinking, oh my God, I don't need the warranty on this new appliance. And my sweetheart saying, Lawrence, if we have only a year or so together, let's make the best of it, let's get married. Who does that? And the other day I bought a Lexus without test driving it. Really. And when my sweetheart said, what color are the seats? I said, and Luther was speaking, he said, I don't care what color the seats are. Like, who cares what color the seats are? I don't want to wait for the right colored seat Lexus. I'm just going to buy it. So oddly enough, after saving money all my life for my retirement, now I have to spend it really fast because it's all going to be taxed at 48% the day I die. So I'm, helping my kids, my adult children with their education, and I'm buying a Lexus, which I'll never pay for. It's going to go back to the credit union. It's true. I bought a condo. It's going back. So I'm one of the most fortunate. It's really weird. I'm one of the most fortunate patients in Saskatchewan because I have all these resources. So, but think about the patients who are not fortunate, who are poor, who don't have the kind of resources that I have. Their lives are very different, and it's those ones that everybody but me, essentially, is in trouble. I'm sailing along on steroids, adrenaline, and lots of resources. So, I can design websites, but I forget simple stuff. Oh, I know what I want to say. This is the most rewarding and joyful time of my life. Isn't that weird? And this contributing back, which I'll call it positive doing instead of positive thinking, is the most rewarding thing I've started. And I just encourage you to think about that. Positive thinking doesn't take you anywhere. It's positive doing. All these people who've been volunteering in cancer clinics and seniors who are volunteering to teach young children to read, they've understood this for years. Frankly, we all need to volunteer more. We all need to help build a more integrated community so that when we're sick, when we're poor, when we're old, we're not alone. And for those of you who think, oh my God, Lawrence is a pretty terrific guy, doing all this volunteer stuff, I have to say, I'm getting way more out of this than you are. This is an incredibly supportive, patient-centered care community, all of you, and it's a way better way to live than simply plodding away to treatment every day and being treated like a patient. So I'm celebrating being here, and I want to salute the Regina and Qu'Appelle Health Region for the invitation. They were one of the early collaborators with the Nurses Union and the Ministry of Health and the University Health Network around a collaborative research project about patient-centered care. And I learned one important principle, and I'm just going to share it with you because it's a really good way to understand what patient-centered care is. So, guy comes in for heart surgery, he's on coronary unit, I think it's 3F, and he's got a discharge date that he's pretty insistent about. So is he going to be ready for discharge on Monday? Yeah. So Monday arrives, and he has to leave, but his medication that's supposed to be coming up from pharmacy isn't ready. So they say, gee, Jim, you can't leave until your medication's here. And he says, I have to. I'm leaving. And they say, no, if you don't take the medication with you, you're likely to die, frankly. So You're not going anywhere until we get you this medication. So the guy is going like this, come on, come on, come on. And the argument escalates until one of the nurses says, why are you so anxious to leave? Why can't you just wait for the medication? And he said, my wife and I are auctioning the farm today. I can't, because of my illness, I can't let her handle the auction of everything we've built alone. I'm leaving whether I get the medication or not. So suddenly people woke up and said, okay, I tell you what, you go get your car, pull it up to the front, I'll dash down to pharmacy, light a fire down there, and I'll meet you at the front door. So that was patient-centered care, because somebody said, why do you need to leave? And he explained why, and they did a workaround where they fixed it for him. He got back to the farm in time for the auction. He and his wife endured that whole process together. And I think that's a pretty good illustration of a patient-centered care principle that I learned about as a result of collaboration with the Regina Health Region, the ministry. So this is our future in Saskatchewan. Collaboration, we can fix lean, we can implement a patient-centered care model, we can have the best of both worlds. There's a singer-songwriter named Connie Calder who says, the reason people are cooperative in Saskatchewan is because you never know when you might have to borrow somebody's booster cables. So, thank you.